You get the Patreon supporters in there. That's a nice touch. That's cool.
That's cool.
You're alive.
And
You're
we're
alive
live. Hey everyone, welcome to Go Live, the Saturday evening talk show. We have a great show for you today, and I can't wait to introduce our guest. That was Erica shouting out Isla's amazing intro, and our lovely Patreon supporters who support us, and our members. Thank you so much for supporting us. It means a lot. Honestly, it does. You keep the lights running in this place, as you can tell. We have a lot of lights running. Before we get on to introduce the guests, let me introduce Asa, the co-founder, co-owner, and the guy who I can always rely on to make sure no mistakes happen whatsoever during the stream. How are you?
Yeah, he says there's already been one mistake. Sorry, Isla, I messed up that sound again. That was entirely on me. But the rest of the show is going to be perfectly smooth. We're going to see some Song of Iron gameplay and things like that. Yeah, it's going to be a really good show. So stick around and throw questions at us. All the rest of it, like usual.
Yeah, absolutely. I will do my best to read the super chats. This is a good opportunity to ask Joe about Song of Iron. I know how hyped you guys are. Last time, every time we've talked about Song of Iron, everyone mentions Song of Iron in the chat. So this is a good chance for you to ask questions. Keep it civil in the chat and keep it clean. And we'll do our best to answer all your questions. Joining us for the show is the one-man army who is somehow the genius who has devised this game that has encapsulated the hearts and minds of people before the game is even out. Joe Winter, thank you so much for joining us on GameOnDaily. How are you, man?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. You're giving me too much credit. Yeah, I mean,
No, I'm not.
It's been super fun to work on this thing. It's crazy, and all the support and stuff like that. Stuff like you said, it helps keep it going. So I appreciate it a lot.
No, we appreciate you coming on here. We're going to go dive in a little bit into your experience with Song of Iron and what led you to it. But before we do that, we have to also introduce our lovely guest, who was also waxing lyrical the last time she's returning to the show, is Erica, aka Ericuts for the win. Thank you so much for joining us, Erica.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here. Like we were talking about before the show, we were just talking about this game the last time I was here. So it's like a nice little coincidence. I get to tag along, kind of get into the mind of Joe a little bit. So I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to this game. So I'm happy to learn more. Excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Everyone is in the chat. Everyone is asking. Yes, it is live, 9 lives. It's a good opportunity to ask Joe some questions. But Joe, a question that Erica answered last time we were here, and it's something that we always ask every time we have a new guest on, and throw you in the deep end. What is your favorite gaming franchise?
Franchise, that's a tough one. It's probably Zelda franchise-wise. Okay. I think it's a tough one between something that's more canonical, like a Halo or something, which really kind of pulled me in. But I just never am not like happy with a Zelda game. I think so. I think I'd probably go with that.
Well, which Zelda game would you pick if?
Oof, man. I mean, Breath of the Wild was phenomenal. I think they really showed what open worlds can be, and it never didn't feel like Zelda. So like amazing designed game. I think though I'd have to still do Ocarina or we'll go all the way back to Ness and for that second one, but. They're just too like kind of like childhood legendary for me to ever overlook. So
definitely,
yeah.
I'm so glad you said Ocarina of Time. That was my favorite. And Erica, you were in jubilation there. Same.
Loved that game. I had dreams about that game when it was about to release. That's how in anticipation. So good.
I've played it so many times. Majora's Mask's right there. I know that it's hotly contested 1 and 2 for a lot of people, and depending on the day, I would have said Majora's. I think today I'm in Ocarina mode, but yeah.
Yeah. And what would you say? And Erica, I have to ask you this as well later on. But what would you say is your most eagerly anticipated title?
Oh man. Well, I'm really excited to see how Halo turns out, but that's because I was there until the end of the year, and so I'm really like rooting for everybody over there to drop something really good. So. That's the one that's on my mind for sure. But I mean, to be totally honest, I've gone more and more heads down on Song, and I've like lost touch with what's going on outside of this room. So I'm excited. I am most excited to have some clear time and to find some stuff because I'm really itching to be playing games again.
Yeah,
So.
I bet. Erica, what we didn't get to ask you this last time.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so.
What is your most anticipated?
Most
game?
anticipated, probably Kenna or Kena, however you say it. I say it Kenna. I know it's wrong, but I'm just so used to saying it that way. That game looks amazing, and it kind of feels like a little Zelda vibe in there as well. You know,
Yeah.
so
Gorgeous game.
yeah, I'm so happy to hear that Zelda's your favorite. I grew up on Zelda. I love Zelda. I like the little Zelda stuff behind you as well. Like that was,
Yeah,
I knew you were gonna say it. Yeah,
there's
so.
yeah, you got the Skull Kid and everything. Yeah, it's
Right,
classic.
right. So anytime like a game, like if I see Zelda influence, my eyes get big. So I'm excited for Kenna.
Yeah, that and actually, Joe, a good question with that. Would you classify that as an indie title? Because I think it's Avalanche they're making it, a really small studio.
That the indie classification is about the broadest thing that we've got. I mean, it's going from myself, and I don't even think I'm on the far end. I think you can go further than I am, and as far as like very, very independent one-man things, I think it can go further than me, which sounds crazy, but to them, I don't know how big that studio is, but like visually, that game looks like it's coming out of a 1,000-man studio, thousand-person studio with that art and stuff. So
it's a 20-man studio. It's a 20.
Yeah, so it's not very big. I mean, Unreal, which I think they're using, is such an amazing tool. I mean, without it, I wouldn't be making Song of Iron, and I dream of Song doing well enough that I can get to 3 or 4 people, and just imagining how much more I could do with that. We could do with that.
Oh yeah.
Doing 20 people, I mean, that's just sounds like, and I bet they're having a blast. So
yeah.
But classification-wise, yeah, I guess technically it's an indie.
I don't. Yeah, but
tough competition.
The thing is, you say you'd like to have 3 or 4 people on your team, but one thing that dominates the conversation almost immediately when people mention Song of Iron is that, this one guy is making this game? One guy is making this game. Can you clarify? Does that mean you're doing the art, you're doing the game design, you're doing the music, you're doing everything?
So it initially was 100% me, all of those things. Yeah. I have, my weakness, my biggest weakness, I have plenty, is the audio stuff. I'm tone deaf. I couldn't write you I couldn't write you any music. So I have signed up a composer, Will Ghost, who's been he did the music for the trailers that have come out and a few other things that I've posted. And then I have some guys helping me with sound design also. So sound is sort of being taken care of for me and stuff. But in this room, again, it's just me. Everything else, character design, combat, coding, all that kind of stuff. I'm porting it myself to Xbox, all that. Well, technically porting, I guess. But so from beyond that sound stuff, yeah, it's 100% me.
Crazy. That's crazy.
And Unreal is extremely powerful tool that I did not make. So there's some level where I can't take all the credit, for that because.
I think you can. People don't expect you to code your own engine from scratch, especially as a loader. But for people who don't know who you are, because you've had it's quite an interesting path you've taken. You actually worked for bigger studios. Can you let our viewers know, if they don't know, what titles did you previously work on and what studios were you working on?
Yeah, sure. I've been in the industry for almost 15 years now. As an animator was my primary role for most of it. I started at Play Mechanics, which you've probably not heard of, which is an arcade studio. We made Big Buck Hunter, Terminator Salvation, which is like if you've maybe seen them in bars or like at theaters or something. So that was like kind of where I cut my teeth initially, and then I went to Cryptic Studios. Worked on Champions Online and then Neverwinter Online, a little bit of Star Trek Online, and then I worked on some unreleased titles that ended up getting cut there. But I was there for like 7.5 years working on that stuff, and slowly moved up, and I was the lead animator by the end of or most of Neverwinter and some of those unannounced projects. And then from there, I got a job at 343 as a contractor. I had some friends that had sort of made their way up there, or up here. And I sent them my demo reel because I was getting ready to move on. 7 years on MMOs can be a little draining, but and they were just, I think within a week of sending them the demo just to get some feedback on it to start applying, I was on my way up from so it was pretty bit of a whirlwind. And then I was there until I think it was just over 6 years. I was at 343, so about a year and a half on 5, and then some of the follow-up content we did. I worked on most of the Warden combat animation. I did a bunch of the assassinations in multiplayer. I don't know how familiar you are with it, but I did like the backbreaker and some of the I think I did 5 or 6 of them or something.
That is so cool, man.
Those are so fun to do. That's like the thing we're just waiting all project to get our assassination list that we get to do.
That's so cool.
Yeah, then I worked on Infinite for like 4 years or whatever, how long it's been since 5, and then I left at the end of December because Song of Iron had picked up so well and was feeling so good about it, and had so many people with so much support. I had to just go all in and make it as good of a game as I could, and be able to commit my mind to it as much as possible. So
yeah, I mean, it's not going to be an easy decision to leave 343 and the big Halo. We're going to touch on Halo.
Yeah, that's fine.
Really, the reason I'm sure you can't say much, but what made you leave? Was it? So I mean, how does that work? You're doing all this animation stuff. Were you working with Song of Iron in the background? Because you were working on a first-person shooter that the scope creep put you off.
Yeah. I just sort of, I think when. I don't know. I've played games forever. I work on games. It sort of became a thing where making a game was almost like what I would do for fun on the side instead of playing them, because and so I just was messing around. I was a huge fan of DayZ and those sort of like real survival-y games. So I just started messing around making one, and I was like, this is like massive. There's no chance. But I was having so much fun. I actually really wanted. I was like, maybe I could take something all the way. And so I stopped working on that. It's like Miyazaki open world survival game. I mean, that sounds great, right?
Yeah.
One day.
Yes.
It'll happen one day.
That's good.
Sounds amazing on paper. Yeah.
Yeah, one day. But so I just sort of, I forced myself to have a bunch of really strict restrictions. No multiplayer, side scroller, a couple things, really simple pillars like that, like combat based on animation, so that I could use that skill as much as I could. And then I just went from there. And I had been working on it for like a year and a half, sort of on the side with 343 while working at 343. So part of the reason I left was because I was working like 80 plus hours a week trying to do both things, and then switching, changing the mentality from one kind of work to another kind of work was like getting really rough. And
Can't imagine.
How many hours now that the game's ramping up and getting towards completion?
I'm probably still like 60 hours a week, but it's much. It doesn't sound like much less, but because it's one thing, it's actually way easier to manage. And I had become a manager basically at 343, so I became the lead of the enemies for animation, and so there was so much more like mental capacity towards people and dealing with all this stuff, and I'll just be exhausted by like 5 o'clock, So it was getting really rough. But yeah, I'm grinding now, but it's all fun for the most part. So it definitely doesn't feel like those hours are coming. So But yeah.
So was that like scary leaving a big company where I guess we could assume was like, consistent and stable, and then you go off and do your own thing? Like, was that kind of scary to make that decision?
Yeah, it definitely was. And I tried to do it with as much confidence as possible, as far as, I had been thinking about it for months, 6 months. It's like, this game's like, it was in E3, Song of Iron was in E3, and it was in, some follow-up stuff. And there was a few numbers in a few different places that I wanted to hit, like wish list counts and that kind of thing. And as I hit those, I was feeling more and more confident that I should feel safe. Like, okay, I think I can at least manage this amount of success from where I'm at, and then I won't feel so bad about leaving.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, it's like this really nice job in a good position in a franchise that I'd loved from forever, basically. And but it's also really nice to be out of there and on my own thing. And I miss my friends there and stuff, but we're all sort of at home anyway, so I just got the Discord channel open at all times. And yeah, so far I don't feel too left out of anything, but it'll come.
Yeah, but like we have to. Oh, by the way, before I go into that, so a couple of guys in super chat. I'll be shouting you out. Isma, thank you so much for the $20 super chat, man. He goes out, hi, my beautiful Gaz and Acer panel. Question for all of you: do you guys think the Apple and Epic lawsuit will affect the industry in the future? How do you see Game Pass in the future? Can't wait to play Song of Iron. We are actually going to touch upon that. I'm going to ask both guests their take on that, Isma. So it's already in the questions, but very good question. No, I was going to ask that.
Stay tuned.
Stay tuned, absolutely. Especially after the Source video, we know we're going to touch that one. Dodge Knight, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. He goes, I cannot wait to try this game out. Looks amazing, Joe. Congratulations. Thank you, Dodge.
Thank you.
All in caps, so you know how it's done.
They mean it. They really mean it.
Yeah.
I know him. I know Dodge. He's always chilling with us. He's part of the fam, and he's just like, oh man, I can't wait for this game. He genuinely can't. We've been talking about this for weeks. We can't pretend that we don't care because we love this stuff. King 2002, thank you so much for the £2 super chat. He goes, big fan of Joe. Can we expect another trailer at E3, Joe?
No information on that yet. I don't even know, so I'm not hiding anything. But I think there's a lot of stuff that's going to be happening in the next couple months regardless, so stay tuned.
Real quick one, actually, on trailers, do you make those yourself, or do you have someone in to help you out?
Yep, those have all been edited and recorded and cut by myself. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's insane, man. You're
a machine.
The animator part of me helps. It's all animation's all storytelling, and so it's all part of the long-term training.
Yeah, but I think a few weeks ago we were actually talking about your game, and we were saying if you ever wanted to feel inadequate about your skills, just see what Joe has done on his own with Song of Iron. And I have to ask, you know you've had plenty of experience you worked at 343 for God's sake, and a lot of indie devs don't have that wealth of experience. Did you need to tap into some indie support, or did you just go, you know what, I can do this myself? What's the support been like from the indie community if you have tapped into it?
Yeah, I think I kind of the indie community in general gave me a lot of the initial sort of momentum and kind of confidence in the idea. I had been posting from the very beginning stuff in the Unreal subreddit and the indie gaming subreddit and a few others that are very focused in that community, and like it kind of getting a good response there at like pretty hilarious of an early stage really was like, okay, maybe there is like just like a clean idea here and I can keep going with this. Like if people are enjoying it at this really rough sort of silly position, then I'm going to keep going. And I think that's an awesome sign for anybody. If the sketch looks good and people like it, then keep going and see what you can do with it. And then just support wise, Unreal's communities alone are amazing. You search Unreal how to anything and you're going to find like 100 videos for it. And I absolutely have gone through many of those tutorials. Like, how am I going to do climbing? And then it's like, okay, here's 5 different people's versions of how it worked. And then you have to interpret it into your own system and how your stuff works. And so it's never exactly one of those things, but without that information, I'd be drowning for sure.
That's amazing. That's really good, man. You've got that kind of database of information. What would you say are what's the biggest challenge you've faced as an indie developer?
I think, man, that's a tough one. The hardest things for me are the stuff that's a little bit outside of directly making the game. Because I'm an artist, not an engineer, I definitely run into some trouble with some of the engineering stuff that somebody could come in and be like, just change this to a 1 or whatever. And it's like, oh, good. Glad I spent a week on this. But, you know, I think some of the hardest stuff is some of the, you know, negative feedback always is not fun, but you have to take it because it's usually really honest. And then I get so many people asking if they can help, you know, sound designers or voice actors or something. And honestly, like, I don't want to say no, but I have to at some point. And I don't want to become a manager. I want to make the game. And so I basically have to say no to almost all of that. And that's honestly, like, it feels so bad. I hate doing it because it's awesome that people are interested and want to work on it. But I'm just like, please, thank you very much, but I can't, you know.
Yeah. That was a good problem to have.
Tough. Yeah.
Right. I could see that being tough though, because it's like you're just by yourself, right? You don't really have like a team to kind of lean on and you know, feed off each other or make decisions together. It's like, okay, I'm the one that's going to say yes or no, or take that feedback just on my own. So that's got to be an interesting experience for sure.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. I mean, animation really is like a feedback focused sort of development path, and so I'm really used to getting feedback, and I really enjoy it. And the game is already better because of feedback, but it's that, like any comment on the internet, right? It's like 100 good comments and 1 bad one. And you're like, oh man, everyone hates me.
That's exactly what Thomas Sala, you know, the guy who made Falconeer. He goes, the 20,000 nice comments, they'll just brush off you this nice, but that one bad comment will stick with you.
It's rough. It's so hard.
Shout out to Thomas Sala. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah, he is.
Got people in chat are already asking when the sequel's coming out.
It's supposed to be a trilogy, so it'll happen.
Oh, wow. Nice. Okay.
Well, I mean, this is a very particular kind of style and theme that you've gone for with Song of Iron. What actually inspired you to create this?
I mean, at first I was looking at some really simple games like Nidhogg, like the Nidhogg 1, if you're familiar with that indie game.
I don't know.
It's sort of like a fighter where you're trying to get past each other and run to the end, and it's a bit of a tug of war game. Amazing, simple, clean combat, and I kind of started chasing that. And then I was playing some D&D with friends at the time, and my character mixed with the campaign that my buddy was running turned into this amazing story arc thing, and that basically went straight into the game. And so this game is basically directly inspired by that campaign, which has some external inspirations, but and then my guy was a Viking, so I went with the Viking aesthetic and just kind of kept moving forward with that.
One of the standouts of this game, beyond just the lovely art style, is actually the combat. You know, when you think of Song of Iron, you think of the axe. You see the axe being chucked and coming back, and that is a big part of, I would say, from a layman or outsider, that when you think of Song of Iron, that's the identity behind. I mean, was that early on? That something you had in your mind?
Yeah, I think the axe throw was probably like the second or third thing as far as combat that I put in. I think I put in like the 2-hit combo that you see, and then I think the axe throw came right after that. Maybe the kick. Maybe the kick was before it. But that was like a great example for me of where I wanted even just the game to go. You know, it's like, okay, I've got an axe. Well, what if like there's a guy over there? I should be able to throw it. You know, there's nothing in the world that would say I shouldn't. So I just made that ability. And I think what I always want the combat to feel like is as sort of like realistic as possible. Like anything that you think you should be able to do should just sort of naturally be able to be done. That's where the drop kick comes. You know, like I added the kick to keep people off you. I was like, well, what happens if you jump into it? Well, I think you'd probably go both feet in, and so it's sort of natural. And then the throw was the next thing, and I just sort of kept going from there.
Yeah, man.
Wow.
It looks, I mean, it's all coming together really well. I think you've, like you said, early days, everyone got traction with it, and the constituent parts form something that people very early on have latched onto, and there's lots of momentum. People are always asking for a sequel, so that's that. Who would you say is your favorite indie developer, though?
Oh man, I mean, I think Thomas is actually a great example. What he did with Falconeer, I've been watching that project for quite a long time, and I mean, extremely impressive stuff that he did with that. Not only just getting it done and going through it, but like the no textures thing. I mean, it's so crazy.
Yeah.
Massive fan of Valheim. I played a ton of that. If there's any delay of Song of Iron, you can blame them for making too good of a game. I thought, I mean, they definitely, did some really amazing stuff with that, and I'm very impressed with their design sense. And I don't know, I love those really small indies like that. Then I'm gonna forget. Supergiant, I think, has done some amazing stuff too.
Supergiant's good.
Yeah, they've been kind of constantly releasing amazing games, and always kind of moving on to the next thing and trying to adjust their model and stuff, and that's always awesome to see. So that's a tough one. There's so many. Yeah,
no, definitely. What would you say has surprised you the most in your lone venture?
I mean, I think it was sort of expected just because I've been in the industry for a while, but it's always like how much time you have to spend outside of just making the game to do it. I think everyone kind of goes into their game initially going like, I don't want to do marketing. I don't want to deal with all that stuff. Hopefully my game's good enough. It's like, if you got the best game ever, if nobody knows it exists, then no one's going to play it. Like, it doesn't quite work like that. So it's been really fun to do the marketing stuff and talking to people coming on shows. Like, I love this. I think it's really, really fun. And so, and I try to share as much knowledge as I can, because I'm an indie dev doing a thing that tons of people are trying to do, but I just am lucky enough to have a bunch of this sort of like other experience that is helping. And so if I can share some of that, the community's helped me, and helping back is awesome.
So what would you, on that note then, what would you, there are so countless budding indie devs or wannabe indie devs who are quite naturally, and I think Erica, you alluded to this, completely frightened by the prospect of doing this, forsaking stability. Well, because we had Thomas Sala here, we've had other indie devs, and they've said the same thing. Like, the security blanket goes, it's scary. What would you advise people trying to make a foray into this? What's the best thing? What can you say to them?
Yeah, I think I wouldn't use myself as an example. I don't think, because I mean, my game is too big, I think, for your normal person starting out and going. I just have a ton of experience, so I guess I felt more comfortable doing a game this size, and honestly, it's gotten bigger as the momentum's built up. But really, I think you can totally do it on the side. Tools now are so powerful, it doesn't matter what your skills are. Like, you can absolutely get in. And especially for the newer people, I really just advise to not try to make your dream game right away. What you should really do is remake Asteroids, remake Pong, try some really, really simple stuff. Give yourself a 1 week limit, and then just toss it. Send it to some friends to play, and then just toss it and move on. People forget a lot of times with games that you have to train. An illustrator doesn't just draw the Mona Lisa the first time they decide to become an illustrator. They start sketching circles, and and those circles slowly become dogs or whatever, and then eventually they understand what dogs, and they move on to the next thing. And game developers need to think the same way. They have to try and fail and try and succeed and learn the whole time and keep going.
Yeah, but you didn't do that though. But that's
I did it. I did it by working in the industry for a really long time, and then so I kind of had I knew what questions to ask a lot of the times, just because I had seen it or worked with somebody on a system like it. And I think that's the thing you'll develop when you try a bunch of little projects, is okay, how do I figure out how to do this thing? It's just kind of the hardest question.
Gotta wonder. So you said a minute ago about Song of Iron getting to be big and bigger than a typical indie will want to start with, and you said that at the start of the project you had certain things that you were going to do and certain things you weren't, in terms of you're not going to have multiplayer and things like that. As you're progressing with it, is it your experience that stops you getting carried away? How do you control scope creep when you've got all the decisions on your own shoulders?
Yeah, I think a lot of that is experience. It's the same thing that kind of, I think it's really easy to stop working on something like this too when you're still doing a 9 to 5 or whatever, and that's experience too. It's just like inspiration is worth one day of work, but you need like dedication and consistency to do like a full project. And so there's a lot of training like that. I've animated thousands of animations, and it's just like not all of them are super exciting, and so you just have to learn to move on and stuff. And there's some fear built in, like smart fear. Like I understand what happens if I scope creep. It's been done to me at studios, and so there's just like every time I think to add something, I go, okay, how important is this? Is it actually going to make the experience better for people? Like, will people even know that this thing doesn't exist? Because I'll have never shown it. So if I don't make it, then no one's really missing out on something.
Yeah.
And there's always these questions you have to ask yourself when you start doing that. My game, I mean, as far as Song of Iron getting bigger, it's just sort of like more art. I've added more things in levels, more characters in some places. The game never was meant to have so much. It doesn't have a ton. It's just like, ooh, I added the bear, which I posted about a couple weeks ago, but it was like, oh man, I don't know, I really want to add it. It's like, I think I have time, so I like do it over the weekend and something like that. But
That's so cool that you're so in tune with the community though, and like getting their feedback. And as a gamer, as an outsider looking in and hearing how you're so connected with the community, like you like coming on shows like this and like being, with good communication and transparent, that speaks a lot for like a gamer like me, because I feel like I'm going to be looking more at someone like you compared to a big time developer that you don't hear from for months, and they don't really do this kind of thing. So that's really awesome. I like that. I like to hear that.
I mean, yeah, I appreciate it. It's fun. It's definitely easier to do it when it's myself versus like at 343 or something. I wish they would like all big studios would do more of it. I think it would help people. Yeah,
it would help us out a lot.
Yeah, people know what they want, and not listening to the audience is just a way to give them less of what they're looking for, I think. So,
I was just gonna quickly say, like, as a you build that little following, even if it's just like a niche cult following, but then word of mouth spreads, and you're doing that at the core. So that's just really, I think it's really smart for an indie developer. I think that's super smart.
Yeah, totally. It's very important. Yeah.
When you talk about community, so obviously you've got your kind of social media relationships. You're coming on the podcast. You've got fans of your game, but there's also, I guess, indie development in general is fairly close-knit, and they have relationships with each other. They go to their festivals and work together and get to know other people, and that's obviously been difficult for the last year and a half. Do you get by because you can lean on your 343 buddies, or is it difficult at the moment? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's ups and downs. There's a few people just like we always tweet with each other or on Twitter with each other when we post on Saturdays, and then give each other a hard time about certain things. Which is fun. I mean, I really appreciate that. Like, I'm gonna when 343 opens again, the studio, I'm definitely gonna get some FOMO of like just being in the office with friends and stuff, and kind of having those moments where you goof around. And that's why I said earlier, like, I want 3 or 4 people, 2 or 3 people. Like, if this does well, I would love to have a really small number of people, because it would be awesome to turn over here and say, like, what are you doing? And like, oh, I'm working on this thing because I thought it could be better. And it's like, rock on, continue. And that stuff is invaluable to have that constant feedback, because I definitely, when it's just me constantly kind of churning on stuff, I definitely, it's easy to lose sight of kind of the player perspective of stuff. One of the, like, difficulty is very hard, because I've played however many hundreds of hours of it, and so it feels like it's going to be really easy. And then the demo in December showed me that was totally not true in some cases. And
what are you aiming for on difficulty? How hard is the game supposed to be?
It's not supposed to be very hard. I don't even think of difficulty as like a metric that I'm worried about. I want people to, the game I think of as an experience game, even though it looks like a heavy combat game. I want people to just feel like this hero Viking the whole way through and feel really strong and cool. But obviously we want challenge, so that you feel like you're overcoming challenge. So as long as you feel like you're doing awesome stuff and you're having fun, that's like right where the level is that I want to be. And that's why, the axe throw is such an iconic thing. It's a one-hit kill. You just throw it and you're going to almost kill everything you hit with it, especially if you hit them in the head and stuff. And yes, it's overpowered. You don't have an axe anymore. You have to go get it. So there's some balance there. But it's just fun to do. And I think that wins over overly balancing it and trying to have some perfect thing, I think, for the way
Yeah.
that I'm going. Yeah.
Yeah, the combat definitely. For me, I mean, combat is everything. Like if it's super rewarding and it hits that like satisfaction of like killing the enemies and getting through the levels, like that's where it's at for me. That would keep me playing, you know? Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I want to field some questions from the peeps in the chat. Shout out to the 110 people watching. Smash that like button, guys. Smokeback Official asks, what made you pick that game genre as your first solo project?
I think side scroller. A lot of indies do side scrollers, and most for me it was because it made the math easier for all the stuff.
Yeah.
As far as aiming the bow and doing attacks and stuff. So that was one of my early kind of pillars of keeping things simple for myself. And then the Viking aesthetic, it's now super massive. When I started, it had just kind of become a thing and was getting bigger and bigger. And now, of course, there's tons of games.
Yeah.
I think. Hopefully, I'm not in the burnout phase yet, but it's a little different, hopefully, and so hopefully that kind of all works out. But yeah, it's just inspiration comes from so many places. The D&D campaign was a big one. I read a lot of fantasy books, so everything I get inspiration through that stuff, and then it just sort of Viking ended up working really well with the direction I wanted to go with, and Valhalla and all that stuff, and so full steam ahead.
Absolutely. Isma, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. Joe, do you see yourself making a sequel? It's a trilogy, and and
I
I'm
want
sure
to do a trilogy. Another one of the things to keep it simple was I cut the story I had in half, and then in thirds, and then it makes it really doable. But I think maybe hopefully more exciting and stuff. So
Trilogy,
some really good
cartoon
advice
spin-off.
there. And a cartoon spin-off.
Cartoon, yeah.
HBO live action.
Obi-Wan has joined the GameOnDaily Elite fam. Thank you so much for joining us. Obi's been he's a core member of the community. Thank you for joining the fam. Muppet 1169 asks, how did you come up with the tutorial, as it was so much better to play than almost any other game I've tried?
The tutorial.
Yeah.
I mean, so they played the demo. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks for playing. Honestly, that was sort of like the easy one to do for the demo. I just sort of said, okay, here's your play space. Just like mess around for a little while. And then once you go far enough, it's like, okay, a game is starting now. But I think I got a lot of good feedback about that and the controls from that, because some of them were a little confusing to people and stuff. And that's, again, feedback is so invaluable. I had gotten so used to having this crazy claw hand on my keyboard that I just had forgotten that it was some of those things were ridiculously hard to do. So it was great feedback from that, and I've improved. I hope if you liked it, then hopefully you like what I've got now, because I've tried to improve it a lot. And I think the hope with the game design in general is that it's very sort of organic and just sort of works the way that you would expect something to work. And some of that's not standard game stuff, but it's sort of how the real world works, maybe throwing an axe. You've got it, now throw it, and then pick it up with the same button. And so I think that's all it is. It's just hopefully simple game design, and then just giving you enough information to know what to do.
Yeah, that's good game design, intuitive game design, isn't it? Andrew McNeil asks, are your weapons upgradable?
No, actually. So the core concept of upgrades and getting stronger and stuff comes from your gear. So you're going to find very Mega Man X style, if you remember that. There's basically just one set of armor you found scattered around the world, and that's how Song of Iron is working. And then all of the the flaming axe or the lightning arrows, they all come from the gear, not the weapon itself. So what makes that really great is you can light an axe on fire, throw it, grab the spear, light the spear on fire, and keep going. And once you've got that ability, you can just use that on everything.
That's wicked.
And then your limit is mana, basically. But it was just I really wanted. I always describe the combat as a barroom brawl. Grab a chair, break it over someone's head, grab the bottle of beer, throw it across the room. Just use whatever you have. I don't want you to be attached to weapons or feel like you've got to keep the super +1 fire sword around. It's don't even worry about it. Throw it, grab something else, keep going. all
That's
their
a good
power
idea.
is sort
I
of
like
gone,
that. Like using the environment. I'm a big fan of that. So that
Yeah.
sounds cool. Yeah.
Thanks.
And barroom brawls are always fun, so that's a genius idea.
Yeah. John Wick is the other way I like to describe it. Is that
Yeah.
like three guys and then just they should all kind
One
of fall at the
pencil.
same time?
So does that mean there's a pencil in the game?
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe I'll have to hide the pencil weapon somewhere.
So you actually today announced a big announcement.
Yeah.
Closed beta announcement on PC at least, right?
Yep. Correct. Yeah.
I've signed
Yeah.
up already. So
Yeah,
the moment
excellent.
I came in.
Yeah. It's super exciting. It's only on PC only because it's easy. It's like a one-man thing. It's so hard to juggle all that stuff, and it's really for testing. And I really want to make sure that I iron out the difficulty. So my 300-hour style doesn't overly influence like the actual experience for people, and people are going to find bugs because they're going to try stuff that I know the thing. I only play one way, and so I'm not used to it, and that's just going to be super valuable to make sure it's like pretty solid. Yeah,
That's important because I was going to ask you today, with bigger games, you got like the Cyberpunks and recently Returnal with their issues. And do you think about those kinds of things? Like, okay, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to like avoid even the smallest bug.
Yeah. Yeah, it's terrifying. I think hopefully my system is simple enough that I avoid some of them. Bugs are going to happen, and the way I'm thinking of launch is sort of technically it's launch, but really it's like 3 months later. I'm just gonna be trying to prevent any bugs or anybody who for whatever reason couldn't play, absolutely just jumping on that stuff right away. Because the beta test is going to help a lot. It's going to find a ton of those problems. It's inevitable that if 10,000 people start playing, that it's going to be that'd be awesome. But they're just going to find stuff. They're going to do things that I didn't expect, and hundreds of hours wouldn't have found if I kept 100 more hours wouldn't have found. So, but yeah, it's you don't want. It's that one comment out of 100, right? And you don't want that one person to find a bug and go, well, I uninstalled it because the A button wasn't working for whatever reason.
Yeah.
And so that stuff's it's scary, but I'll do my best, for sure.
Does that mean? Well, you haven't committed to a firm release date for this game, have you?
I have not, no.
But do you have a kind of idea?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I'm still aiming for the summer. Everything is like, assuming there's no catastrophes, then the summer still is super on the table. I have a day that's not official because I'm just trying to. I want to get through cert. There's all these little things that I want to get through before I go. Okay, everything is definitely like in the pocket, and we can keep moving. The last thing I want to do is delay for a month because I didn't fill some form out, with Xbox.
Oh yeah.
That's some of the scary stuff too. Is like, have I done all this right? Like, am I gonna? Is the government coming for me? I don't know. Hopefully, I didn't commit fraud on all this paperwork. It's like it's so crazy. That stuff's crazy, but.
When you're thinking release date though, do you have an eye on the rest of the industry and what else is coming around at the same time, or do you just like shut that off and focus on your game?
Yeah, definitely. I definitely don't want to I don't want to fall into the bucket of the fall season. It's just instantly I have to compete with 10,000% more games or whatever.
Yeah.
And I had originally hoped for spring, and I kind of started pushing that as I was realizing that it was going to take a little bit more, because I really was hoping to hit that, like, everyone had their new consoles, all those games kind of ran out, and it's like, what else do we play? And I wanted to like land right there, and it's not quite going to be there, but hopefully, I mean, there's not that many new consoles because of all the stuff going on, but hopefully, I mean, summer's looking really good. I'm feeling good about it. I just don't want to put a stamp on a day yet and then have everybody mad at me when it
don't blame me at all.
So,
that's smart in my opinion.
Yeah. If we found a bug, how do we share it? Says Isma. Thank you so much for $5 super chat. And a very good question. And how do you know what exactly made it happen?
Yeah, it's I think so I have a Discord, which is going to be hopefully the primary place for something like that. We'll especially at launch, we'll have like a place to put tickets, and the best way to report bugs, just in general for like any game, is like, I was doing this and then I did this and then this happened. it only happened one time. I tried again and it happened exactly the same or whatever. I mean, that sort of information is always going to help any developer kind of figure out what's going on. I think the feedback that's never helpful is like the game broke, or like game is bad and then like that's it. It's like I get it, and usually it's frustration because you're trying to play, you're really excited, and you just want them to to understand that it's not working. But the more information anybody can give about like what they were doing, when and where in the game and all that stuff, the better. Because I'm very intimately aware of like all the pieces, and if depending on what you say, I can probably identify it right away, or maybe it's like, whoa, hopefully that's not happening for a lot of people because I have no clue. Please, anybody else who's seen this, let me know because I'll need more information. So, yeah, but Discord will probably be the primary.
A good question, isn't it? Thank you for that. Someone in the chat asked, and there's also a question I asked. I was thinking about to ask. Game Pass. What are your views on that? And will Songs of Iron make its way on there?
Yeah, I general feelings about Game Pass. I love it. I think the intent behind it, at least the proposed intent is like more access to more games for more people. And I think from just pure consumer concept, pure wanting more people to be exposed to this awesome thing that we all obviously love, it's amazing. It's awesome. Netflix and HBO and those places, they didn't make shows and TV worse. They made it better, right? I mean, they added tons of competition and tons of like really, really good content for all sorts of people, and it's been awesome. And I think Game Pass is going to continue that trend and is going to do really well with that. I think it's great. And then like I think they've got like, I don't know if it's active yet, but they talked about like the kind of rental program for the Xbox itself.
Oh yeah,
it's like you pay like $30 or something, and you like get a Series X, assuming they're in stock, and then you just kind of pay it off through Game Pass. I mean, that's like crazy. Could you imagine when we were kids being like, "Here's a system for $30 a month"? It's like I'll mow some lawns, man, and pay for that. Like that's awesome. So I think it's great. It's super cool, and I think from the data that I've seen, it's only helping the people being on it. It's not they're not losing a ton of sales because it's being given away for free. It's actually like making it more apparent that their game came out, more people are seeing it, and then that's just leading to sales. So it seems to be, for now, good for everybody as far as we can tell. So very excited about it. Nothing official for Song of Iron. I would love to be on it, based on that last description.
Yeah.
I think it'd be so great. I've talked about it with them and stuff, and they've got their list of games per announcement or release kind of window that they like to do, and I'm hopeful. I hope it'd be great.
I think it'll be a prime candidate.
But
I was gonna just ask, like, how does that work? Is it like open season? Okay, indie developers, everybody sign up at this time when you want your game out on Game Pass. Do you got to reach out to them, or how does that like work?
I think they've got. I mean, at least for me, the Inside at Xbox or ID at Xbox kind of program, which is how I got into the Xbox kind of ecosystem. They've got people that are just like all over that. They are looking at indie games for it. There's Game Pass has its own sort of like group, and they are trying to curate a really great environment for a mix of games, and so they're on the hunt, and the invites, I believe, are sent out, not asked for.
You gotta wait. You wait for it.
Yeah, so I have to wait. Okay. Yeah, I can't. I just, if I want to be on Steam, I just be on Steam. But to be in Game Pass, they invite you, basically.
Gotcha.
It's the short version.
Okay.
Which otherwise you'd see way more, and I would assume that the fear is that they want all like this tier and above quality, so that Game Pass always feels like it's hitting a certain bar. I mean, Nintendo used to do it. Remember Nintendo's like stamp of approval way back in the day, and I think they kind of want to be somewhere in there.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and they have to pay for that as well, isn't it? It's like if you pick, you get depending on. I think every arrangement is different per developer.
Yeah, I'm sure I haven't seen a contract, so I don't know exactly, but in theory, they're being on it is some measure of success. They, it's like they'll guess how many people, I'm sure, then go, well, okay, we'll pay you this amount, assuming you're going to get this much traffic or something. But that's pretty much a guess on how that works. So
one of the things I've attributed to Xbox Game Pass, and what I've said that Xbox Game Pass will do, is it will enable the resurgence of indie games, the smaller games that we saw in the PlayStation 1 and PlayStation 2 era, because there was coming a point where, well, we are at that point where dev costs are spiraling and they're so high. Yeah, something like Game Pass may be something that normalizes that. Do you agree with that, or do you think that's what Game Pass can do or is doing?
I think Game Pass will like assure success for more smaller studios,
Okay.
and hopefully just balance out some of those costs. With the hope that like sales like is what really makes it a profitable game. But I would hope that those sort of minor deals, it's not minor, but those deals will help like kind of like make those smaller studios and decent sized studios feel a bit better and feel more secure, not just hope for day one to be everything. It's like Game Pass kind of has a longer shelf life too, and so to my understanding. But yeah, I think all of the stuff from the Xbox side, I think it's just going to keep bringing more and more people to the table. I mean, Steam and how easy it is to publish on Steam really has turned 100 games a year to like 30,000 games a year in the last how much time. And I think the more the consoles kind of commit to that kind of mentality too, the more stuff we're going to see, which is just great.
What's the development environment been like developing for consoles?
Everything's still built on a computer. So, my experience getting it onto the Xbox for the demo, for example, there's a few more roadblocks than Steam, but Steam's just PC to PC, so it's simple. And I just had to do, I just had to bring their thing in and integrate it a little bit, but most of it's like balancing for the specific systems, Xbox One original, S, X, and then now the Series and the Series X and stuff. And but those are just like computers, so I just have to set, the quality bars and just do some sliding around and then play and see if the frame rate's all right and all that kind of stuff. And then, so
hopefully the support there at Microsoft is good as well at Xbox.
Oh yeah, they're all over it. I mean, the ID at Xbox team has been amazing to work with. I've said it on a few other shows. I mean, like that program is amazing. I think they're doing really, really awesome stuff. I love working with them. It's the only one I've done, so maybe I'm not seeing it, but I can't imagine a system like this being much better than it's been. So
wow,
major props to them. Yeah,
Erica, I was going to ask you, do you see Xbox Game Pass as, well, it's easy to see as a positive, but do you agree with me when I say that this will bring the resurgence of the smaller niche games into the limelight more?
You can, for sure. I loved last gen because the indies were so good last gen, and I felt like, without Game Pass then, it was more of like a word of mouth thing. Somebody would play a game, pass it on to me, like, hey, check out this game, Erica. Then there I am making videos, and everyone's making videos. Like, it was more like word of mouth. Game Pass is like, here's the game, it's free, come play it. Well, free with your subscription, I guess. But it's definitely a way that people can look at different games and be exposed to different games, and if they have an open mind for it. Because I feel like a lot of gamers are just so big on the AAA or nothing. And if it gets even just a few people to try it out, I think that's a win, because there's so much gold out there that people just have no idea of. I love indies. I just adore them. So if it's artsy, if it looks amazing, combat looks good, like Song of Iron, like I see something like that, it catches my eye. And if it takes Game Pass to kind of push it in front of people, then of course, it's a good thing.
I think it's kind of elevating the status of, I say elevate the status, but if you think about it, when an indie title appears on Game Pass, it's almost treated now more so than previously as, oh, look at this title. Treated more in line with other AAAs, it seems.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's what I really like about Game Pass. Is finally people are taking notice. Oh, that game looks great. Like, yeah, but you wouldn't know that's an indie title. And
exactly. That's
really
it's a great thing. I like Game Pass. It's great. Yeah.
You've recently been playing. I don't know if Joe plays games anymore, but I will ask. Have you played Returnal, Joe? Have you?
I have not. No.
I don't blame you, man. You're forgiven for not playing games right now.
I've got a lot of catching up to do. That's for sure.
That game it's something else. Let me tell you, something else. Yeah.
It looks amazing.
Yeah. It's what's your impression of me, like, Eric? Because I watched the whole of your boss fight in the third biome. You're better than me because the first lot of her, you didn't even lose your health, and then you did really bad at the end. But
I did. I watched it back too. I'm like, I got hit a lot, but I did kind of beast it at the beginning to get me there, I guess. Yeah.
What's your take on the game? Because that game is quite divisive. Well, it's divisive in the sense that it's ridiculously hard and unforgiving. What's your take on this whole roguelike, no save point issue?
It's definitely unforgiving and punishing, but I do believe it's fair. You can really beef up your character, and that's what I did last night. Everyone told me, and I was a little stubborn. Like, Erica, you just got to get in there. You got to grind. You got to get your health up, get your stuff up, your proficiency on your weapons. So I did that for like 2 hours, and I felt way better about my character and the damage I was doing and all that. So if you put in the work and you kind of understand the system of it and it clicks, like, okay, I get it now. I got to do this. I got to do that. It's very rewarding. I play a lot of challenging games, a lot of Souls, a lot of, games that I do die a lot. So I think I already have that kind of like persistence and understanding in my brain of like not giving up and just kind of like pushing through it. But for others who don't really have that experience, I think it might be tough for them to accept, I have to start all the way over. That could be very daunting and even for me, there'd be times I had a run that just went really bad in a matter of seconds. And I would feel beefed up, like, oh, I feel good about this. This is the run. Boom, I'm dead, just like that. And and I'd just be sitting there looking at my screen like, I got to do this again. That was 2 hours just gone. And for some, they just are not about that life. And I understand it's not a game for everyone. Definitely not. I don't have a lot of experience with roguelikes either. Besides Hades, I really don't like them. The whole starting over, losing everything. And I'm up for a challenge, but that game loop is just something that I don't really like that much. So for me to feel this way about this game and keep coming back, that's a big deal. So I do want to, let people know, like, hey, if I can do it, you guys can do it too. Like, if you just got to put in the effort, just kind of push through, I guess.
Or do what I do. Spend 3 hours doing it and then encounter a game-breaking bug and you die. That was the worst. I put that on Twitter today. I was crying inside, and maybe on the outside.
That's why I was bringing up the bug thing with Joe. Like, how do you avoid that stuff? Because it's like, man, I've had the door glitch thing where I couldn't get through the door, but thankfully it's been at the beginning of the run, so I was able to just like quit the game, start over. But I've seen people like be deep at a boss fight, or you know what I mean, and it just crashes or something happens. The doors won't open. I feel for them. I don't know what I would do.
Feel for me. I'm that guy.
You too,
I had a great gun, proficiency level up max, great, loads of health, and just stuck inside, clipped somewhere, keeps respawning me. Why'd you do that?
I want to know, like, are you coming back? Did you feel like I'm done, or do you feel like you want to come back?
Well, it's certainly, and Ace has raised this point really well. It's not like Hades. Hades, you don't feel like that. Be like, all right. I'm getting a little bit stronger. I'll be better off. Returnal doesn't make you feel stronger. If it does, it's so negligible in the artifacts that are permanent. And I will go back. If it wasn't for the show, I'd probably still be playing it now. So that says something. That the gameplay loop is good. And I hope you try it, Joe.
Yeah, Joe. Like the gameplay. That's why I said earlier, like with combat and like gunplay, like and specifically in Returnal, if it's satisfying, like that's what will get us to come back. So even if your game is challenging for people, if they love that combat, like they'll come back,
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I really look forward to it. I think it looks like, I mean, people are calling it like the first real AAA of the new gen in a lot of ways, visually and stuff, and I can't wait to see it. And it'll be great because, like Cyberpunk, which I haven't played either, I'm gonna get to come. Everything's gonna be nice and fixed on all these games, and I'll be like, "What? Everybody had such a problem. Everything's running great for me." Yeah.
The Cyberpunk next gen patch, and you'd be like, "Oh, what was the problem?"
Yeah, what was the problem? I don't know. Did it come out? Yeah. But no, I really look forward to Returnal.
Yeah, I think it's a classic, but it has some fundamental issues, not just because of the premise of it, but that game itself. Mantis Toboggan, thank you so much for the $2 super chat. It goes, Source of Iron. That's it. That's the sequel. the sequel. Source of Iron. We have to, Joe. I would be really remiss of me not to ask you. Look, we're massive Halo fans, huge Halo fans, and we can't wait. And Halo's always been so topical. It always comes back on the show, in some way, shape, or form. And you're part of the team. Again, Halo was in the had some controversy with Eric Lamb. You didn't actually say what people said he did, and talked about crunch, but you didn't say crunch. But I wanted to talk about last year we saw the gameplay reveal, and it's been acknowledged. Something didn't go right. What happened with the 2018 demo, man? Was that a different engine or something, or like what's going on? The tools not ready?
Let's see. How do I talk through this? Yeah. No, I mean the 2018 show was pretty legit. I mean things always are going to change. You know, you think something's going to work out, and everything indicates that it's working and it's great and it's fun or whatever. And sometimes suddenly you realize that that's not true anymore. You know, the Halo and a lot of AAAs, they're massive, right? They have thousands of different elements coming together, and while you might try and build something in one way and it works great for 100 of those 1,000 elements, once you put it all together, you just realize that it's just not going to work. And so things are always going to change. That's why you always see a trailer. It's not always quite the same when the game comes out, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it's inevitable, right, as part of production. But yeah, I mean, it's what the game is. We're trying stuff, and it's difficult to change stuff sometimes, and so there's always that. And what happened this year or at the end of last year, it's the same thing that happened with Cyberpunk in some ways, and people internally think one way, different groups think another way, and eventually one group kind of wins for the moment. And I think the thing to take away from it really is that they heard the feedback. Some of it they already knew. Some of it, was maybe a surprise from a certain perspective. Was
the visual bit a surprise? The visual, like, just complaint?
I mean, yes and no, right? It's like there's an intended direction for art. It's always going to be a subtle adjustment from the last one. And it's like, okay, people thought we went maybe too far with this tiny version of this element of a thing, and they didn't like it. Okay, cool. Like, we hear you. Like, we had 1,000 versions of that sketched up, and we chose this one. You didn't want it, so we'll go back up the meter a little bit and fix it. And I think them going, we hear you. We're going to take a whole other year, and we're going to try to address this and fix this thing. That's like kind of all you can ask for, I think. Until we see tons more. And now I've been out of it for months, and I know it's getting better and better. We've seen new screenshots that are like, miles ahead of what they showed last year. So it's amazing what a year will do.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask actually about that. Is a year enough? But you've alluded to that. That can make a big difference.
Oh, it's massive. I mean, almost we've heard it a ton through different games and stuff where, we didn't work on Infinite from literally the day 5 launched on, and so, it's not really been that 5-year development cycle. It's been much less, and so a year is awesome. And then also, you're kind of still trying to figure out a lot of stuff leading up, and then when you go, okay, now we have a year to make this all better, but we're not changing anything anymore, like fundamentally, that's just gonna like make everything more polished. All those bug bar is gonna go way down and be way cleaner, all that kind of stuff. It's amazing. I mean, even as the developers, we'll get like cold feet because characters will still be gray boxed for really long, and then all of a sudden all that stuff comes online. It's like, oh wow, the game looks like great. Now that like all of these systems come, and they're all coming at the end, and so yeah, it's always great.
Everything's going to improve apart from the animations. Those are stuck where they are.
Yeah, because you said you're a senior there. Like, did you leave like hand over? Were they nervous? Like, yo, don't leave now.
Yeah, no, I mean it was tough. When I was originally planning, the date was still early or at the end of the year, and so I was trying. You're trying your best to like kind of be good for the team and time it out well, and the pushback kind of put me in a hard place, and I told them way in advance of way before like a 2-week notice. Like I had told my boss almost a month, like probably 2 months ahead, like I'm getting ready to kind of start considering this, and then so he always knew that it was on the table and all that stuff. So we had been kind of like coaching someone up to take over for me, but also the way that I like to manage is to like give power to individuals, and so the team can run by itself. All I was doing in a lot of cases was going to really long meetings and then just telling them what happened in as short a time as possible, so they didn't have to worry about all the extra stuff that can come with that. That's just game development, but
that puts you in good stead with running your team in the future, God willing, with your 4-man team or whatever the team is.
It's the experience from that stuff is great, and it also just gives me perspective of managers and of people that are not just making animations. Like someone's trying to organize this massive game, and I understand it is not an easy task for sure.
No, absolutely not. What about the dev tools? Because I think just a bit insight into that. The dev tools we've heard have matured now. I think the Xbox GDK was a bit behind, wasn't it, until recently?
I mean, from my perspective, this is one of those things where I'm not technical enough probably to really like be impacted from it. Unreal is my primary dev tool, even for the Xbox, and so I'm not the best resource on it. Yeah.
Okay, enough.
It's sort of like click button works.
Do you have a lot of confidence then? Sorry, Asa.
I just want to go off of that for a second, just to preempt some things that are happening at the moment. Like, you obviously sounds like you enjoyed your time at 343. What's it like to work as a studio?
Yeah, I mean, I really like 343. I had a ton of fun. A lot of really good. Some of my best friends work there, and that's kind of the dream situation. And it's awesome to work on Halo and do those animations, assassinations, all that stuff. Indie development is totally amazing on its own right too, because something that any AAA studio, it's not just a Halo thing. If you're like, we want to add a new character, this bear, it's gonna be really simple. He's just gonna show up for like 30 seconds and then he's gone. It'll take months at any AAA studio to get that done. He's got to go through all these approvals, blah blah blah, back and forth, and then concept, and then rigging, all that. I think I did the bear in like 3 or 4 days, and I was like, I just need a bear. I'll work on it for a little bit. I'll bust out, his real small, simple animation set, and like, yep, this bear works for me. Done. And like, I think that can be a paralyzing issue for bigger studios, and that's, we try to make everything really, really good, and it's got to be perfect, and this and this and that, and then I just made it, and then and a lot of times at a studio like that, the first idea is probably fine, but you think a lot, and it's a lot of people that it has to get translated through and then redone correctly.
A lot of bureaucracy.
Yeah, and it's just it's a lot of telephone too, right? It's like the art director decides on a thing, and then that goes to leads, and then the concept artist draws it, then the animator has to animate it, the modeler has to model based on that, and then it's just so complicated. So being the one-man army thing, it can help with that a lot.
Can I just as well, so 343, there's obviously a massive weight of expectation on them because they're handling Halo, and fan expectation is ridiculous for that game. When you're working at the studio, do you feel that weight, or is it kind of taken at the top?
It comes and goes. As those shows come up, you get more and more nervous, and the narrative team, which does a lot of the cinematic stuff, they definitely feel it because a lot of that pressure is going directly on them to show the story, show Chief, all these people in the best light possible. And so they definitely can feel that pressure from the gameplay team and the enemy side of stuff. I think we're a little bit safer. We know what the elites are. The elites are elites. They do this and all that kind of stuff. And so we're just trying to balance the new stuff and be as true to the old stuff as possible, and I think we feel pretty confident in that. So luckily we don't feel too much of that stress, but at launch everyone will feel it for sure, big time.
Yeah.
I have a question about Craig. You know Craig, right?
Oh, very familiar with
I'm just curious, how much like ear to the ground did the studio have and take that criticism? Like, what was kind of the morale at the time, if you could answer that?
Yeah, I mean the Craig one I think is sort of one of the best examples, honestly, of how 343 made the meme first. I think.
Yeah, right. They
Everyone was
did.
like, "What is this?" And they're like, "That's Craig." And, like they named him, all that stuff. I mean, I think that you can't take yourself too seriously, right? And when you make a mistake, or I mean, that screenshot is like so out of context, is the worst possible time. It's like
Yeah.
we could do that to ourselves by snapping screenshots of this chat, right? And it'd be like, "Who the heck is that?" But we knew, that was one of those things, one of those systems that wasn't ready, and it wasn't intended to be screenshot at full 4K, like
Yeah.
face through, and that's just the face rig comes online separate from the body rig, and it's a layer that goes in and is rendered separately in a different way and stuff, and so the faces just kind of weren't ready yet, and so it's like. Don't look at all the other stuff going on, but of course we were. Bam, there you go. But it's not great for the feedback to be like mean. That's when it does hurt, and it's like we know, guys, like we really want this game to be good. We're not trying to make a game that's bad or anything like that, and so when it gets mean, it's not so fun. But what some people really give like positive criticism, and that is gonna, like, for any game, is gonna make a better game. It's the cruelty that comes out of stuff a lot that honestly it's gonna make it worse for the people making the game, because it's like, I know I'm trying really hard to make that good and it's not done yet, and then they still have to come in every day and work on it, and so feeling good that the people kind of have their back and believe in them is honestly always gonna make better work in the end. And so, and I understand why people get upset with this stuff, but
I get upset. I get upset a lot with Halo.
It happens. And it's okay.
Yeah. And I've said it so many times. I have faith in Halo. I have faith in Halo. Then some article comes in. I was like, why are you doing this 343? And it comes from a position of passion. Halo is my #1 franchise. But sometimes it gets translated negatively. And you don't see, and we don't know how that impacts. And there's a sense of entitlement. And then it's just like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we all want the thing that we love we want to keep loving it, and we want it to be good, right? And we want it to fulfill our expectations and stuff. And it's a battle. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, it is. It is. But we don't just talk about Halo. You've left 343, so if that tanks, that's not on you. Maybe
hopefully there's not a bunch of articles written about one sentence out of context.
Yeah.
Well, not said anything unreasonable, and it's been quite positive. And you have faith in 343 in delivering, and that year will make a big difference. This is what we asked that question. Yeah, that's the big question. Will it make a big difference? And
1 year is ton. The big mistake, like I think we can look at Cyberpunk as maybe a parallel in some ways. I don't think we were ever in that same situation exactly, but they delayed by like weeks at a time sometimes, right? Mm-hmm. And that's honestly the absolute worst thing you could do, even if that delay ended up being 2 years long, like a whole year longer or something.
Yeah.
What as a person on the very ground, it's like, okay, all of our animations are broken, but you have 1 extra week. I go, okay, I will do the thing that I can do in 1 week. But if I had 2 months, actually, I would do a completely different thing that would make it better. And then when you go, okay, a week's gone by, you did that 1 week thing. Okay, you have another week. I go, well, I can't do anything else. I already broke everything to make this work for that one thing. So you have to go big leaps so that we can plan and do things properly. If you do small pieces, you're gonna destroy your developers, but also you're not gonna make it. It's not gonna make it much better.
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. And I was hoping, part of me is like, is a year enough? But then 343's Halo Waypoint blogs have been really useful, and they've been really candid in communicating.
Which is good. It's really nice that they're being way more open and constant communication and stuff. So
communication is key. It's key for just even the goodwill with gamers and pacifying
expectation being correct. And,
managing expectations. That's the big thing. I know you're stuck in the realm of development, but surely you as a gamer must be hyped for E3 that's coming up in a few weeks.
Of course, yeah. Absolutely. Always hyped for shows like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You want to see, I'm still waiting for, the next big sort of change in games. And I think, it's not always happened with like new console generations, but I think we're getting more tools and more power in our stuff, and I really want to see what people do. And E3 is the place where we show that as an industry. So always excited.
What would you like what do you think is the next big thing that should be done, or what do you think is neglected in maybe game design that you'd like to see?
It's tough. I think I love realism in my games. Like I said, I like DayZ a lot. I think it's a niche game. It's pretty hardcore in a certain way, but they, I think, kind of uncovered some really interesting stuff with that model. Just like, there's a lot of interesting things in reality. And there was also an Attack on Titan game that it was a really little indie game. It was like nothing, but it was like you actually were Spider-Manning around, and it was all physics based. And that gave it such an interesting realism, and it allowed me as the player to do things that in like Spider-Man Miles Morales you would never be able to do, because it is canned to some extent, right?
Yeah.
This game was pure physics. You had to hit a building. You had two cables like in the show, and so when you had two together, you'd go flying. I mean, it was just like hard to describe how much better of an experience that was when you start doing those awesome performances. I think Rocket League shows this as a really good point. Like, that's the most athletic, true sport game we kind of have ever had, because it's just a car and you just move around, and then there's a physics ball, and so you have to. It's all skill in a way. You know, the game's not doing anything for you, and and that seems like simple. That's not like evolving technology really. It's just evolving a mentality, and I would love to see more stuff play like that. I think
it's like I always tell you guys, Rocket League is just like Quake 3 Arena.
Yeah, that's what you always say. You always say.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, totally. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, but like in terms of, you played the Attack of Titan game as well, didn't you, Asa?
I did. I like that game. Yeah, I like the series. So not much else to say.
Did you play like it was like, I think they were like, what's the little like mini ones with big heads? It was like a really little like a browser game or something. Yeah, it was so great.
The one thing that seems to be neglected in games is, well, there's a lot of things neglected. Well, AI, for instance, is a big killer for me. AI in games. I played Ghost of Tsushima. I love that game, but I can't get past the AI. It just like kills it for me. Do you think we could see a change? I know you're not tech guy or you're an animation dude, but you've got more insight than us.
I think I agree with you. I think that, and I look through it from the animation view, and I think animation systems will like need to improve also, because a lot of times, you know, the player looks amazing, really fluid, and the further down the chain of the importance of an AI character, the kind of like cheesier and less clean the animation systems get, and understandably, but that pulls you out really fast. You know, if a character's walking around like a robot and like spinning without turning and doing like it doesn't matter if they say a really smart thing, you're like, look at, get this guy out of here. Like, where's the really good stuff? And you know, environments look photorealistic in a lot of cases, and you know, some are trying to be artistic, but like we're getting to this point where you can believe the world 100%. But then you have this like guy walking by, and he's all stiff, and he's running at like 20 frames a second because he's a little bit in the distance. And I think that stuff's really hurting us, feeling more immersed and stuff. And yeah, better dialogue for them, better sort of actions and stuff. And I think it can be done. I would love to see a game like Ghost of Tsushima where, you know, it's an RTS as far as the game's concerned, even if you're just playing the one samurai, and like all those people have roles, and they're actually going to the forest to chop down a tree and come back and put wood into a mill. Like, I think that would be so great, and it totally can be done. There's nothing overly complex about it. Some indie games have done it. They're just really hard to play, and they're super nichey, but like they've started to touch that, and I would love to see it in the open world games.
That's weird that you see that as an RTS. That actually makes sense if you see it like a top down and they've got their routines.
Yeah, if the designers build an RTS, but then just put you down there as a person, that'd be really cool. Because like you would be affecting the world, right? You chop down all the trees, like then they can't get wood, then they have to do something else, and then like all these systems to come into play. It's like, well, now they can't defend themselves because they can't build walls. So this group comes in, and then you come back and you're like, wow, all I did was chop down the forest. Like all this stuff would change, but like the systems can be dynamic and they can be global, and so it'd be awesome. If Breath of the Wild has done a touch of that, if you just imagine expanding that further to be global, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh man, that's just weird to see. When you frame it that way, it's doable. And now that I'm thinking of it like an RTS, and then there's like you could script that somehow. Whereas
yeah, it should be simple theoretically.
Chopping trees
to some extent.
I feel like
Sorry,
I was just gonna say, I feel like the consensus with a lot of gamers is like, oh, it's too hard. It's too much money. It takes too much money. You know what I mean? That's always seems to be the state of mind with us. Like, that's too hard to do, but we don't know any better, you know? So that's good to hear.
I mean, there's a lot of things that are really easy. I think the people with a lot of money spend a lot of time overly working on visuals, and like so much money goes into that stuff. And obviously it's great, and they'll tell you it sells systems and stuff. But, you know, give me 10 people and I can get surprisingly close to that. And I'll try systems that people don't try. Because I'm not so worried about losing, you know, however many millions and millions of dollars like they are all the time.
Yeah.
And tons of stuff can be done. I mean, Falconeer, amazing example. That's one guy made a massive, dynamic, open world, all these characters, all this stuff. One person did that, right? Like, give him 5 of him. Let's get 5 more of him working together. Like, they're gonna do something crazy. Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah. I should have got. I was trying to get Thomas Sala on with you, and he really wanted to come on. But he's got a big announcement. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. But he's got an announcement, and that's
I think they posted something today on there.
Did they?
Or they said something was coming at least. So don't say anymore.
Okay. Yeah, he's gonna come for me if I say too much. CYV Studio, thank you so much for the $5 super chat. It was a great show. I have a story that I want to adapt into a video game. Any advice for a writer?
That's tough. I mean, I think the best thing to do, honestly, is to try it yourself. I mean, the tools are honestly really there, and if it's a story you're trying to get across, don't worry about some amazing visual representation of it. You know, you can use boxes and put names over their heads if you really want, and have them do the story. It's definitely hard, and I wouldn't suggest like sending 343 a script. They're probably going to even try not to read it because legal stuff can get involved, and that's tough. The alternative, honestly, is like start working as a writer for a studio and start preparing your idea for the time when you sort of have the power to influence something like that. It takes time, you know. Like when I started as an animator, they were like, animate all the deer running. And I was like, okay, but wouldn't it be cool to do this? They're like, yeah, but how about you animate those deer? Because everybody's got ideas. And so you just kind of have to pay your dues. I hate thinking about it like that, but you know, everyone's, you know, it's that thing. And then, you know, new people come in and they go, man, I would do so much different stuff. It's like, yeah, but the person above you's been thinking that for 1 year longer, and they're just waiting for the opportunity. So there's a lot of that. It's not the best answer, but I really think doing it yourself is a really great option. And the tools are there. Like, you can absolutely present your story in a way, I think, that would work.
That's really good, because that's a good question as well, CYV. I always thought if I had a great idea, how do I have to animate prove it to a studio? But you're saying if you can do it in boxes or something simpler, just the idea.
If only you ever had a good idea, I guess.
You don't know that.
David Whaley, I think I'm saying his name right. He started with this really small story game. I mean, it was a lot of like, you know, assets from the store. But it got across and it did well. Then he made the first tree recently. You know, I think that's like 5 years ago. But that was just a story game. He's just one guy. You know, like you can totally do it. Really, really can.
Yeah, absolutely, do it. I just noticed your cat, Erica. It was so funny. You just sat there in the doorway, just
like somewhere. Yeah, I just
right
caught her. Yeah, she you know, wanted to say hi, I guess.
I was gonna ask you, where are your cats? Because we haven't heard them.
They were sleeping. They were doing so good, and then, you know, I was talking, so they come in.
Well, what you hyped about? I'm like a giddy little schoolgirl when it comes to E3. I can't wait for E3. I think this, just like what Joe has said, like, you know, do we get to see the next big thing? You know, get to see. This is the first next gen E3 as well. So
Yeah.
Come at me. What are you hyped about? What are you hyped about?
It's like the Super Bowl, right? For the gamers. I've always felt like that. I love E3. I always get excited. I know some people don't. They're like, oh, it's dead and it's not the same and it never pans out to what we think it's gonna be. But I love it. I love E3. I'm always excited to see the new stuff. Even the cringe moments. It's like it's an event, you know, you get together, you talk about it, do shows about it, you know, reactions. Like I stay busy, I do content and stuff, so I'm happy for it, you know, still going. What am I excited for? Yeah, just like you guys are saying, the next big thing. Like I would love to see God of War again. I would love to see Metroid. I don't know if that's gonna happen. It's Nintendo.
The endless quest, right?
Exactly. I don't hold my breath for Nintendo. Just anything really. I mean, even Breath of the Wild. If we could just maybe get something on that. Anything that's gonna maybe blow my mind and just get me excited. You know, I'm for it. I can't wait. It's gonna be cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Asa, you never share anything with me. You will be surprised, ladies and gentlemen. He does not talk to me in the background, so I get as much information from him here than you do. Hey, so what are you excited for E3? Which titles in particular? Don't be vague. I know what you're like.
Gaz, I talk to anyone and everyone that comes into my streams every single day. I'm easy to talk to, easy to get things from. But you don't watch, so I don't talk to you.
Exposed.
There's so much stuff. There has to be so much stuff because the industry has obviously been thrown and shaken up. So the last year we haven't had loads of big announcements, and you have to look at Microsoft and their 400 studios that they've got now. I think they have to have some huge announcements cooking up, and they can't keep holding them back. So, what games are they going to be? I mean, the same games as last year because we haven't seen any more of them. I want to see those same games, and I want to see them. I want to see the 5 studios that they got a few years back. I want to see what they're doing. Sony. To be fair, Sony have told us a bit more of what's coming in terms of Horizon Forbidden West and God of War, and they've promised those games for this year. So if they're going to stick to that, we're going to see those games properly looking near finished. If they don't stick to that, then so be it. But they've got the full 2022 to try and start revealing as well. So I didn't mention a single particular game, but there's so much stuff for this E3, so much potential for it.
I love how you did that. I love how you did that. I knew you. I know you so well. Which game are you most hyped to see the most at E3, Asa?
Come back to me.
You're the last one.
I don't know.
Yeah, you are. God.
Well then, Hellblade 2. I want to see more of Hellblade 2.
It's a good one.
Okay.
It's a good answer.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Looks
Joe,
incredible.
you're an animator guy. I'm sure that probably gets you excited, no? Hellblade 2.
Oh yeah, I think Ninja has always done. That's right. That's the studio, right? Ninja
Mhm.
Theory.
Yeah, Ninja Theory.
Yeah. They are always like pushing the animation stuff. They're like kind of known for it in a lot of ways, so I'm super excited. I mean, the teaser for the game looked incredible. I know they work with Unreal really closely to like push Unreal systems, and so, you know, if they're even halfway there to what they showed, I think it's gonna visually be an amazing game. Yeah.
Oh man, I can't
Very
wait
excited.
to see that. I can't wait to see that. Someone said Perfect Dark. I think it's a bit too early for Perfect Dark. I don't know about that. Oh, actually, well, I almost forgot. Isma did a really good super chat, and there's a question I wanted to ask you like this week, and I did a video on this called The Source. Don't ever watch my Source videos, Joe. You'll never respect me ever again. But I was going to say, there's this epic and Apple lawsuit that's happening, and in that, one of the things that got revealed was the fact that Sony requires developers to pay them for crossplay if they hit a certain revenue stream. Like if they surpass certain revenue limit, they have to pay Sony, and no one else is doing that for crossplay. Do you what? Huh?
It's not quite that simple, but carry on. We'll go through
Kind of. But if you take that premise that Sony are the only ones who are requiring this kind of additional kind of thing for what's your take on that? Because I love crossplay and I just hate with a passion any kind of attempt at limiting crossplay.
Yeah, I mean, just as like in general, I think.
General, yeah.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I think just because we want access. I really love Xbox's direction, and that goes all the way up to Satya, head of Microsoft, which is just like getting more people access to the stuff and like allowing them to have it and enjoy it and stuff, and not trying to gatekeep in a lot of different ways. And that's not like it's directly consumer gatekeeping, but myself, a small percentage could mean the difference between the sequel or going back to a studio that not doing my own thing, and any bit of percentage could be that line. It'll always depend on the studio, and so if they're gonna scrape people like that, it's not gonna help the industry. It's only gonna help Sony directly, right? And Microsoft in the meantime, right, dropped their like PC commission basically from 30% to 12%.
Yeah.
Which to the developer, that's a 25% increase in revenue, and that's like crazy. That is a crazy difference in money, right? And meanwhile, and if Sony, if all that rumor and all that information is like really accurate, then like Sony's doing kind of the opposite in a way, and like that's unfortunate. Obviously, there's like thresholds and stuff that are. I'm not super intimate with the information, but I don't like it. I want people to have fun. I mean, this sort of stuff fuels the not good conversations, console wars, and all this stuff. It's just like it just adds more nastiness to the conversation, and it would be so much better if we were all just having fun, playing games together, and tides rise all ships, and however that phrase goes. But it's just going to be better for everybody if everybody can experience stuff. Game Pass is another example of it. Like, it's increasing sales of games on it. It's not decreasing them, which is counterintuitive to an extent. And the more access and conversation we can have about a game, the more likely people are to participate and enjoy it, and so on. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I think there's a lot of goodwill that it goes a long way. And Erica, you're a multiplayer head. Do you play games with your friends on different platforms, like Crossplay? Or
I have. Yeah, it's not all the time, but I have. Like, I mean, PC to Xbox, with like Gears of War, for example. Warzone, I believe, like when I did try it a couple times, I was playing with people on PC, I believe. I can't remember. But Call of Duty, games like that. Yeah, it's a little more, a couple hoops you got to jump through. You got to add people on certain, Activision or Epic or things like that. But it's worth it. I mean, I agree with Joe. I feel like if anything, this would help sales. You would think, because if I'm only on a PlayStation, and if I know, let's just say Sony doesn't do it, which they have in the past, they've been kind of like, stubborn to do it at times. Remember when it was like Nintendo and Xbox? They're like, play together. They had that picture, remember? So Sony's been known for being like stubborn on this. But let's say there is a game and they don't have it. I mean, if I'm somebody who is on Xbox and PlayStation, well, I'm going to get on Xbox because I could play with PC, or I could play with my friends on Nintendo or whatever. So you would think Sony would kind of understand that, but maybe they just don't. This is the first I'm kind of hearing about this whole Apple and Epic thing. I wasn't really knowledgeable of that, but if what you guys are saying is happening, and if that's true, it's unfortunate. Sony just needs to kind of catch up on that a little bit, because crossplay, I mean, it helps everyone. It doesn't mean they're going to lose sales. I think if anything, it would help them get sales, but I don't know.
That's a good point.
I imagine they're still a little bit in the end of last generation mode, where they were just like super dominant. They had all the numbers, they were being the like bullies with all the power, and I think we're potentially seeing that slipping away from them as like everybody else is kind of getting on board with it, and I assume that they're going to do it eventually, because there's even without stuff like this leaking and all that kind of stuff, but maybe not. I mean, big companies have fallen for smaller things in the past, and it will keep happening as they refuse to like kind of follow times and stuff. But not that I think they're going down because of this or something. But, it's like the mentality shift. Like, I think Nintendo is always doing its own thing. Xbox is like really saying like, let's try this different path this time, it seems like. And then In the end,
Right.
maybe it doesn't work out and Sony prevails because they maintain the sort of way they're working, but time will tell. It doesn't feel good right now, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, enough of them. But Asa, what were you gonna say? I think you're gonna contest what I said, but
I am going to defend the indefensible and upset some people, probably. I know consensus. Yeah, no, I know consensus, and there's a lot of outrage, particularly from the Xbox community, and I'm going to upset some of them here. I think Sony are justified and have been proven right in having this policy in place. And I'll explain that before
Why?
people disconnect and drop off the chat. The policy, if you actually have a look at it, it's quite specific in that, first of all, there's exemptions for the really small games. It's like $500,000 or whatever before it becomes applicable. But the wording of it and how it's calculated is quite specific in that it is based on people that are primarily playing on PlayStation but spending their money elsewhere. If you look at Sony's history with Crossplay, when Microsoft first started really promoting it and driving it forwards, which is great, I love Crossplay, I'm glad they're doing that, but when they started doing that, there were a lot of PlayStation fans that said, nah, Sony did it first. They did it on the PlayStation 3 with Final Fantasy 11, 10, whichever one it was. And they were right, because that was a naive Sony that didn't understand the online space, and they said, our console's on the internet, do what you want with it. PlayStation 4 Sony became way more aware of the value of online play and microtransactions and all the rest of it. They've put this policy in place to protect themselves, but they've been very much entirely proven right by Epic. If you look at what Epic did over in the mobile space with Fortnite. So the reason that Fortnite got delisted from Apple's store at the start of this legal proceedings was that Epic put on Fortnite a storefront. You go on there and it says, do you want to buy your V-Bucks? They cost, I don't know, $10 or whatever. Or follow this link to our website and those V-Bucks cost $8. That's the scenario, the very real scenario that Epic have made a reality. That they will try and undercut you and stop you having your players spend money on your platform. So Sony have said, actually, that scenario can't happen. That's going to pull the rug from under us and cripple us in the online space. We need to protect against that precise scenario. That's what this policy is all about. And if it didn't exist, Sony wouldn't be doing crossplay. And it would be worse for everyone.
So, but why is Sony the only one doing it? Why is Microsoft right?
That
Why
is a fair
Nintendo
question.
not doing it?
Nintendo are the same as Sony were in the PlayStation 3 era in that they're quite naive to the online space and they don't make a ton of money off of microtransactions. I don't even know what their store policies are for V-Bucks, but they're not in the same position as Sony and Microsoft. Microsoft's overall strategy is entirely different to Sony's, and
Which is not anti-consumer.
It's not anti. You can say that it's anti-consumer, but at the end of the day, those games are cross-platform, and Sony are not necessarily taking money unless people are playing on PlayStation and spending on a different platform. So, and you can understand from Sony's perspective, they can't have that rug pulled out. They can't have Fortnite, they can't have Apex Legends, and have those players playing those games for free and spending their money on a website.
It makes
That's what it
sense.
protects against.
It makes sense.
It's kind of self-preservation, but they've made enough money. They had $10 billion. They made a lot more than Microsoft.
Okay,
It's
corporation.
like
They've
corporations,
made enough
right?
money is not a
They
concept.
want to make more. It's never enough.
They want to make more, and then as a consumer perspective, it's very hard to, and it is indefensible. I can understand. We all understand these are business reasons why, but it doesn't. It just sounds like a very bit. And I always say this: look, this doesn't operate in a vacuum. How many times are we going to defend their $70? Joe, what's your policy on the £70 thing?
I go either way on it. The pricing of games is already like in a weird place where a lot of them should be way more expensive and a lot of them should be cheaper. And I hate that there's like it's like every AAA game costs this much, and then indies have to fight over like one,
Scraps.
literally from free to $30 or something, and it's just like that's a very confusing place.
Yeah.
If they justify it with games like gameplay, then all for it. But until then, it's like unproven. It's like they think they can, so we'll see, I guess.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. That doesn't sit well with me, Asa. But we can agree to disagree there. But I understand what you're saying. But I can't back that. I can't back Sony, the market leader, if you call them that, and then shed some tears for
If it was
having
you
their
then, if you saw what they did to Apple And Apple's response was, right, we're not selling Fortnite anymore. That's how serious it was for them. Imagine, and this is why the court case is so interesting, because the ramifications of this court case will hit the console space. But Sony, how could they not have a policy like this? How could they just say, yeah, it's fine, spend your money wherever you want. These games are free. You don't even need PlayStation Plus. Don't worry about giving us the money. People can sell directly. How could they have that?
Others have it. They have confidence in your platform. You have confidence in your platform. You're that worried about that. You know, other people have had that.
Okay, then, Gaz. Okay, reframe. This is you. You've logged on to Apex Legends. You want your heirloom. You're willing to spend your £1,000 to get it. That's you. That's a very specific example. You know that you do that. Okay. Underneath, it says, or would you rather pay £800? Which one are you going to choose?
Obviously, the cheaper one.
Exactly. Yeah. So how is the platform holder going to make any money if they don't have a policy that says, if Gaz spends this money on the website instead, we get a cut because he's playing the game on our platform?
But that's just
it would be so easy to lose a massive market share by saying it's cheaper if you don't give them money, and that's what they're worried about.
Well, they have to adapt. They're not the market has to adapt. It's like, what do you mean how? There's like a multitude different. There's just one facet of the industry. That's just one facet on microtransactions.
Do you know how much money they make on microtransactions?
It's a big part though. That's the thing. Yeah. Especially Fortnite. It's wild over there. Like the V-Bucks and all that. They make a lot of money. Epic makes a lot of money. And I'm thinking, because Sony has the partnership with Epic, right? So that probably has something to do with it. Even more so, I would assume. Yeah.
So if what's come about this court case for people who don't know is that we've got insight into these really interesting emails between Sony and Epic. And then Epic is saying, hey, look, we'll do all of this stuff for you. We'll give you the marketing data. We'll give you this data. Very weird that this is coming through. It's like, okay, how much data are they giving? Microsoft, how is Microsoft be like, hold on. Why are you guys in bed with each other? Stop lathering each other up. This something's a bit worried. Microsoft has some concerns here too. But if it's all self-preservation, then where do you draw the line, Asa? Then forget anti-consumer things. Just go. And we're talking as consumers here. So we'll understand that you say it's corporations, but we are corporations. For the players? Are you for the player, Asa? I don't think you are. I'm such an asshole.
I'm not sure if that was a question, if I'm supposed to answer that. But, I will say as well, so in terms of the specifics of the policy, I read it, and I don't quite understand everything in the calculation in terms of how they're calculating player engagement. So it's really quite crucial that the calculation is fair before I say that the whole policy is fair. But the concept of Sony saying, hang on a minute, don't pull the rug out from under us, I don't think is outrageous.
I think as a consumer, it holds back gaming. I just can't see it. Like crossplay for us, particularly me and you, we know it's had a massive impact on the way we enjoy games, who we play games with. Fundamentally, our gameplay experience has been enhanced so massively because our mates like Ben can play with us. It's a game changer. And right on time, Isma, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. He says these types of policies hold back the advancement of the industry. I really believe that one day multi-plat games will be crossplay. Sony didn't make that game, so it shouldn't take royalties in his opinion. Ooh, that's interesting. What do you think about that, Joe?
I mean, I think there's something to be said about platforms. I mean, like, you know, you didn't make the game, but you're using Sony's servers or their platform. You're using, like, they're an access point, so they're entitled to some of the money. You know, realistically, I think Epic's thing with Apple, and it's all sort of this intertwined thing. You know, they were saying Apple's charging way too much to the developer. Like it's like 30%. It's like kind of like an industry standard, which is why you're seeing suddenly a bunch of people kind of lower that number. And Sony's response in some ways is probably fear of losing that, and so they're trying to protect that 30%. You know, while other places are kind of like lowering it in hopes that you just let them. You know, Fortnite's big enough, and they go, yeah, well, we can take a 10% hit to not take a 30% hit. So come to our website and buy it, and we'll deal with the problems that causes. If Apple just lowered it to 15% or something, I guarantee you, it like most likely never would have happened, right? Because, Epic goes, yeah, 15%, that seems fair considering the platform, blah blah blah. But 30% is like a lot of money.
Yeah.
For any amount of profit, you're seeing 30% taken out of it versus 15 is like massive change, right?
Yeah.
So it's tough. They're definitely not like in a tower, like smoking and curling their beards. They don't want to be anti-consumer. They're looking at numbers and they're trying to, and Ace is super right with that. And I think he's making really valid points.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with them, honestly. I think we don't have all the information either, so it makes it hard. And to your point, it feels really evil though. And it feels like they're like fighting to keep everything for themselves. And they're not necessarily, there's probably someone in the room going like, we got to keep all this business, but like that, there's 100 people in that room going, yeah, but blah, 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 blah.
Well, yeah, there's a committee decision there. It's like,
yeah,
it is a tough one, especially for Sony that really needs PlayStation to do well. That's unlike Microsoft. Xbox is a small part of its pie, larger pie. Yeah. Damn you, Acer, your sensible takes and stuff.
It's good. We need more of that, honestly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So.
Absolutely.
That's a good point for sure.
It's a good counterpoint to the source, but the source is still the source. But I'm conscious of the fact that we've got to pass the time over an hour and a half because we could talk about this for ages. Sorry, Joe, we got involved in a little bit of civil war here, but it was a good chat.
Good.
I love that kind of banter. Guys in chat, I hope you had a good chance to ask Joe everything. Joe, we are generally really excited about the game. I hope you hit your summertime-ish release date. I know you haven't committed to it. I don't want to get in trouble.
It's all good.
And we can't wait. And we wish all the success for Song of Iron. I can't see it. Well, touch wood, that it go wrong. And I see it a trilogy. Everyone does. And you go back and watch our shows when Erica was on, when everyone else was on. We spend a good chunk of time just being really excited. So you should be proud of even achieving that, even though the game hasn't been out. And absolutely incredibly talented individual. So massive respect. And thank you so much for coming onto the show, man.
Of course, yeah, it was super fun. Anytime.
Yeah, and for the people who don't know, and our big multi-million subs, this is a good opportunity for you to tell people where to. You've got your closed beta. What would you want to tell Song of Iron fans and get them hyped up?
I think the best thing I can ever do is to have people watch the trailer because I am terrible at speaking about it, but I really hope that the imagery in the video kind of does the speaking for me. You can see that kind of anywhere on my social media stuff, but I'm really trying to start something. I think Song of Iron is the first step to more of it, and I've learned so much along the way that it's like all the support now is only going to make more and more good stuff in the future. And I don't want to become some huge corporation. I just want to I'm done kind of doing that part of stuff, and I just want pure game development in my life now. And so I'm on that path, and like all the support has been amazing because it's just the beginning for that. But I think people are going to really like it. I mean, I've been trying to be really honest with what I show. Like this is the game. I try to say what it is. It's this long. It's this stuff. And so hopefully I've managed expectations, and I just really hope that people have fun and are excited for the world and stuff. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sure there will be.
Posted. Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely there will be. And I think I speak on behalf of the whole community is behind you on it. So, and look forward to can't wait to play that. And to Dodge, thank you so much for the £5 super chat. Asa will always be my king. He is bang on with that point, and I dislike PlayStation. All right, Dodge, next time you even try and sit in this chair next time. Okay, I see how it is. Erica, it's always a pleasure to have you on here. Like I felt like we were tag teaming questions with Joe. It was
That was great.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thanks for having me. I told you guys last time I was here, like Song of Iron, the moment I saw it, I put it right into my wish list, like bam, quick, no question. And I actually heard about it through Twitter before seeing the trailer. Somebody was like, Erica, because they people that follow me on there kind of know my style of like games I'm into. Like, Erica, you gotta check this game out. They tagged me. I'm like, oh yes, you guys know me well. So I've had it in my wish list since, and I'm excited. It was awesome to be here and just like ask you questions, learn about the game more, and hopefully the viewers enjoyed it as much as I did. So thank you again for having me. you guys.
No, thank you for being here. No, honestly, it was a pleasure. Don't just say that. And I'm sure the viewers had it because if they were having a good time, I can see them having a chat. So thank you again, Erica. Thank you everyone in chat. Asa, the defender of big faceless corporations, how are you? No, I'm a cruel boss, but yeah, I actually agree with the points. You know me, I like the theatrics, but yeah, Asa, I hope you had a good time as well. Anything you want to say to Joe? Because I know you're a big Song of Iron fan as well. Before we,
yeah, no, well done for everything you've done so far. Just looking, I've not played the demo. I wish I had played the demo, but just looking at the trailers, it is a stunning looking game in terms of the style and direction. So really pleased with that. Everybody watching, if you are wanting to play that sooner rather than later, it's quite a limited little beta that you're running, isn't it? But do you want to just tell people how to apply?
I think probably, let's see, somebody linked some stuff. If you follow my Twitter, which is at Song of Iron, there's a link to a form. This is a really simple Google form, and we're going to try to take 100 people, I think. So it's a little limited, but it's really going to help the game overall. And hopefully there's another opportunity before launch for people to get in, similar to December. We'll see. I'm trying to get that. I don't want to promise anything until it's there, but game's pretty close, so hopefully everybody can jump in soon.
It's looking fantastic. So yeah, over to you.
I really appreciate that.
Yeah. Well, thank you everyone. Can't wait to get a hold of the game this summer. We've got E3 coming up. We're wrapping up the content. More Soul stuff happening. Our merchandise is about to go live. We had some problems with it, but it's going to come out this weekend. I know people are asking about the Soul stuff. But if you did enjoy the show, smash that like button, peeps. And we'll catch you next time on GameOnDaily and Go Live. Peace. And